A Radio Flyer wagon is one of those rare toys that grows with us. At first, we're simply passive participants along for the ride. But as soon as we can walk, we take an active role in our wagoneering, pulling along anything that's light enough to lift and small enough to fit inside. As we grew older and bolder, we turned the handle around and transformed our wagon into an airplane to pilot or a horse to ride. This is the story of America's Little Red Wagon, Radio Flyer. The story of one of America's most beloved toys starts, oddly enough, 4,000 miles away in a small town near Venice, Italy. There, a 16-year-old boy named Antonio Pasin was learning to be a cabinet maker, like his father and his grandfather before him. The boy dreamed of going to America and starting his own cabinet-making business. And his family supported the dream. They sold the family mule to get enough money to send Antonio gliding off to his future in America. On April 19th of 1914, Antonio landed on Ellis Island in the shadow of the Statue of Liberty. With a cousin in Chicago, his aim was to go to that city and find a job in the cabinet-making trade, but that proved very difficult to do. And for 3 years, the immigrant teen, who knew hardly any English, worked just about any job he could find. He washed vegetables, served water to a crew that was digging ditches, and even stood watch at a cemetery. Eventually, by 1917, he had saved enough money to buy some used woodworking tools and started constructing handcrafted wooden wagons in a rented one-room workshop. That year, he founded the Liberty Coaster Wagon Company, named after the statue that had welcomed him to the land of opportunity only 3 years prior. By 1925, the Liberty line grew to include wooden scooters and wooden tricycles. As word spread about these well-built toys, Pasin realized that he was never going to be able to keep making them in wood and keep up with the growing demand. Incorporating the mass manufacturing techniques of the auto industry, Pasin began making metal wagons out of stamped steel in 1927. Inspired by the relatively new invention of the radio and by Charles Lindbergh's solo nonstop flight across the Atlantic that same year, Pasin christened his new metal wagons Radio Flyer. The shift from wood to metal allowed him to keep his old world standards of quality while increasing production. In fact, the steel makers of the day nicknamed Antonio Little Ford, as they sold him the raw materials he needed to transform 25 pounds of metal into a toy that transported us through our childhood. It wasn't just his demand for quality and his work ethic that made him successful. Pasin was also a gifted marketer. During the Depression, he went against the advice of many in his company and started plans to make a 45-foot-tall coaster boy riding a huge Radio Flyer wagon to display outside the 1933 Chicago World's Fair. Inside, Antonio sold miniature versions of his wagon, like the one pictured here, for 25 cents. The gamble paid off, and Radio Flyer became the talk of this global event. The Depression couldn't slow the demand for Antonio Pasin's wagons, and he even would brag during those rough economic times his company still made 1,500 wagons a day. In 1987, the company was renamed Radio Flyer Incorporated after their best-selling wagon. Today, Robert and Paul Pasin still run the Chicago-based 103-year-old family business. Taking a page out of their grandfather's book of marketing, Robert and Paul Pasin have a 27-foot-long, 1,500-pound wagon outside the Radio Flyer headquarters in Chicago, and for years packed it on a flatbed semi and hauled it from Chicago to New York for the International Toy Fair. Imagine the excitement of being a kid and seeing a Radio Flyer wagon 9 times the size of a normal one rolling down the highway. Our family model here is an ATW, or all-terrain wagon. It comes with fat, air-filled tires, which make it good for going over loose ground. So it's great for a trip to the beach, and it comes in handy for some yard work. Our family wagon helped us celebrate holidays. It transported tired trick-or-treaters on Halloween and made our 4th of July parades somehow even more uniquely patriotic. If baseball, apple pie, and Chevrolet is America, it's certainly no more so than quilts, Coca-Cola, and Radio Flyer. The Pasin family continues to add to their legacy while remaining true to their origins, with a toy that's both the center of a child's world and an invisible prop in a much bigger play. We remember it, but even more, we remember what we carried in it, who was pulling us along, where we were going, and what it became through our imaginations. Its familiar shape could transform into a lemonade stand, a covered wagon in a western shootout, or filled with water, a place to cool off on a hot summer day. Your mom may remind you that you once pulled your Radio Flyer full of dolls and teddy bears, but you remember it as a school bus full of kids. The Radio Flyer story is a tale of transportation, both real and imagined. It's mules and boats and the auto industry, but it's also spaceships and flying carpets. According to Webster's dictionary, the word transport means to carry from one place to another, but it also means to move to strong emotion. That's our Little Red Wagon and its ability to transport us back to our childhood. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this wagon trip down memory lane, please consider subscribing to this channel. Until next time, remember to pull someone along now and then. It makes the world a better place.